Okay, so for this session in our apologetics course, I've given you the title of 10 Principles of Good Communication. And I've got a 2-page handout here with a summary of these, so don't worry about taking too many notes. But just before going into the list, I've got 2 other things just as an introduction, really. I've already talked about what we mean by apologetics and explaining the faith and the history of that. I just want to say something very simple and human and personal, which I've put under the heading here of the spirituality of wanting to share our faith. Spirituality. What I mean is, we often feel, and many of you are probably here this evening, you've come to this apologetics course because sometimes, I won't say often, sometimes you're feeling defensive, you're being asked heavy questions, you're being put on the spot, and you want to come back at someone with an answer. Yeah? So the inner attitude sometimes, understandably, is one of defensiveness. And that's okay, that's a reality for some of you, not all. But you see, that's not a good spirituality, is it, in our relationships? And I just say very simply, a spirituality of apologetics is having a genuine desire to share our faith with others and to help them to understand. The first point, as it were, is not to defend ourselves or the church. That's there in the background. But the first motivation, and actually the deepest motivation, is to help the other person. Do you see the shift, the little shift in the head and the heart? And I want to help them because I want to love them as a person, as a friend, a family member, a stranger. So this is part of loving. And in fact, sharing our faith, explaining the faith, instructing others, leading others in faith, it's part of the tradition of the works of mercy. It's part of the spiritual works of mercy. I want to share my faith, to do apologetics well, because I want to love others. And I know that for them to grow, it will be a great blessing to come to know the truth better, to grow in their understanding. Truth is always a good thing, so if they understand something a little bit more, even if they don't take a big step of faith, that in itself is a good thing, isn't it? But above all, I see the beauty and the gift of faith, of Jesus Christ, of His church, of this wonderful teaching. I know how it's helped and been a blessing for me, and I long for it to be a help and a blessing to other people as well. So it's about loving the other. It's about seeing the value of the gift that we're trying to share, which is our faith, the truth of Jesus Christ. And I just add in, it's about being obedient to Jesus Christ, who asked us to hand on His message and to share His teaching. And we have all these motivations, and they, again, a very holistic thing. This creates a holistic spirituality. And we might vary from one motivation to another, but I'm just putting that at the beginning to say, don't just be doing this because you're feeling defensive. It's very broad. And the second bit of introduction here is just to remember that we are doing an apologetics course. We're learning how to speak, explain and listen and have a good conversation. But the biggest gift you can give to others is the witness of your love and of your faith. It's your own integrity. It's the integrity of your Christian life, that you're trying to live it as best you can. You're trying to explain it as best you can. You're trying to love the person you're with as best you can. You're not necessarily the greatest thinker the world has ever had. You're not necessarily the most loving person, the greatest saint the world has ever had. But you're doing your best to live your faith with love and integrity. It's your personal witness. And I'm saying to you, that is what makes the deepest impression on others. much more than any words or arguments or discussions we have. That's what touches their heart. The person you are and the values that you're trying to live for, even in your weakness. And I'd include in that your prayerfulness and your actual prayer. That if we're in the middle of an unexpected or a difficult encounter, we just send up a very quick, what the church sometimes calls arrow prayers, an arrow prayer, meaning we just ping up a, God help me, Jesus please give me the words, Mary pray for us, pray for this person, pray that this conversation goes well. We can do that from that little bit of our heart that's looking up to heaven, even if we're in the middle of a busy conversation. Okay? So we keep all of this in mind before we dive in. Right. So, this is just one small part of apologetics, but it's a nice way to start here in week 2, what I've called 10 principles of good communication. And in fact, this isn't my phrase. This is a list of principles that was developed by Catholic Voices. Catholic Voices is, if you like, a modern form of apologetics. It was set up in order to do media work, to get the Catholic voice into the public square, into the media, but it's become a slightly bigger project to try and help Catholics in lots of different contexts understand their faith better and think about how they can share that in a thoughtful, intelligent, helpful way. So I'm just going to race through these 10 principles. I've got these on a sheet. They're a bit abstract. I'll try and throw in a few arguments, but the reason I got you talking is all the time to be thinking, how is this real for me? Yeah? How would this apply to that conversation I had last week? Or that argument I got into over the summer? Or that discussion I had yesterday when someone found I was a Catholic and we got into a big discussion about it? Yeah? How would this apply? First principle. Look for the positive intention. Meaning, let's say you're having an argument, people are defending things, people are disagreeing, someone is disagreeing with you, possibly. Not always, but just possibly. So, instead of just getting caught up in this argument, you think that, I think that, try and think about and listen out for, or even guess, what are the real values, the deepest intentions that's motivating the person I'm speaking to? What's driving them? Because very often we might be disagreeing at one level about one topic, but they care passionately about something that is really important. Nearly always. I'd take the risk in saying always, yes? This person here, they might seem very genuine, they might seem very aggressive, but whatever the discussion is about, have in your heart a basic trust that this person has a good motivation, they have a good heart, and if you're feeling defensive, they're probably feeling a bit defensive. What are they feeling defensive about? What do they care about most? And what's the positive intention, the motivation here that's really driving them? Let's give a classic example, yes? You're having an argument with a friend about abortion, right? You're taking up a very pro-life position, they're taking up a pro-abortion position, and all you can hear, you're trying to defend the life of the unborn baby, quite rightly, yeah? And all you can hear is that this person is pro-abortion, which of course, from your framework, is a completely negative thing, isn't it? To be a pro-aborting an unborn child. But just obviously, this person arguing with you, they care passionately about something that is really important. Like how to help women in difficult, sometimes tragically unexpected pregnancies. Now, do you care for women in difficult, sometimes tragically unexpected pregnancies? Do you? Of course you do. Of course you do. Now, you might have different answers about the best way to help this woman. You might have different answers about the value of the life of the unborn child. And you might have profound disagreements about that, and they might be very tense. But just for a moment, recognise there's something motivating this person that, first of all, I need to recognise it just to get real here, but that it's a good thing that's motivating them. They care about something beautiful and true and important. And at the very least, if I can acknowledge that, in my heart, it makes me a bit more sympathetic. So there's a heart thing here. But in my, as it were, strategy and motivation and love, if we can find a way of acknowledging what the common value is that we both care about, it just gives us something to share. And it gives us a starting point for maybe the more difficult discussion. Another random example is, if someone is attacking your God and is taking up a really strong atheist position, they're attacking God, and you think they are attacking the thing that's most important to me. Well, if their idea of God is Santa Claus sitting in the clouds who gives sweeties to people who are nice to him, if that's their idea of God, then you agree with them, don't you? So you need to step back and say, hang on, what's your idea of God? I agree with you that is not a healthy God to be praying to. That's not the Christian God, and we're in agreement that this is not the God that anyone should worship and adore and believe in. Now let's get on to talking about the real stuff. Who is God for me? And what do I really mean by God? Does any of this make sense to you? Now we've got rid of the nonsense stuff. Do you see? We're trying to find common points of agreement. We're trying to recognise that there is a value in what they're speaking, and hopefully we can share that value. But even if we don't, we've recognised that there is a genuineness and an authenticity for that person that is as true for them as it is for me. I'm not being relativistic about truth. I'm being objective about the motivation in their hearts. So basically, try to understand people, give them the benefit of the doubt, assume they have good intentions, and try and find what you have in common if possible. That's what it means by looking for the positive intention. Secondly, second principle of good communication: shed light, not heat. Shed light, not heat. Have you ever just got into an argument with someone? And you're getting louder and louder, you're getting more heated emotionally, you're physically getting more heated, you're red of face, your decibels are raising, basically you're fighting. And you're digging in, and you're letting your emotions speak, and sometimes possibly you're letting your anger and your frustration and even your hatred and your annoyance speak. The purpose of communication, now this was developed for the media, this list, but you see how it applies if you're going on radio tonight, but it applies if you're talking to a friend over supper, doesn't it? You're having a conversation, great. You're feeling a bit of emotion, and because you care, that's okay. But in the way you're speaking and loving and explaining, you're trying to give light to a topic, to an argument, and you're not trying to persuade them by force or by shouting louder or by having bigger emotions. Put it another way, you're not seeking to convert them by the power of your presentation. You're seeking to help illuminate their heart and mind so that they can see the truth. You're not trying to twist their arm. And actually, you know how unsatisfying the feeling is when you've had a big argument with someone and you go away. Yeah, it leaves you feeling a bit kind of regretful and sticky and sick inside, doesn't it? And even if someone's gone, okay, whoa, okay, I get it. Or you've even if you've been really clever and got in this great point, kapow, yeah? And they don't know how to answer you, and they're saying, okay, they're not actually changed very much often, are they? Just as you catch faith by witnessing the lives of other people, so you can catch light in an argument. And basically I'm saying to you, stay calm. Be loving, be as peaceful as you can. Recognise your emotions, that's important, but don't let them take over. And if they are, just say, look, let's slow down, or shall we just press the pause button, tell a joke, go and get a drink, start again. Shed light, not heat. Principle 3. Again, you can see how this was developed for media. Think in threes. A time-honoured way of preparing your discussion is to boil your message down to 3 key points. And it's a sermon technique, isn't it? And it's a TED Talk technique. And it's certainly a politician's being interviewed on TV technique. But it's a good one. Don't be mechanical about this. I have got 3 points to make about this. Yeah? But just, if you're getting into any topic and you know it's going to come up, even if you're just walking down the street, just think, okay, I know I'm going to see so-and-so, and last night we were talking about this, and they might ask me about this. Instead of going in cold, just think, from your own knowledge, what are 3 simple things I'd like to say about this? The 3 most important things to me. I mean, think about it. Why on earth do you go to Mass on Sunday? You know your nagging friend might say that to you. Why are you going to Mass again tomorrow? Didn't you go last week? Isn't that enough for this month? Yeah? Well, just, if you're going to see that friend, think of, in the cold light of day, going for a walk, sitting in bed the night before. And I'm not being abstract here. I'm not talking about getting Catholic encyclopedias out. What are 3 things that you would like to say, lovingly and peacefully, about why the Mass is important to you? Let me think of my 3. Yeah? I know I can meet Jesus there. It gives me a really beautiful, peaceful space there in my week, once a week. And it gives me a chance to pray, which is difficult in the rest of life or the rest of the week. Or I love the community there. Or you could give 20 reasons why someone goes to Mass. You could give 20 reasons why you go to Mass. But just to think, if I'm put on the spot, what are the 3 things I'd like to say? You see? And having that in mind, very gently, just gives you a bit more freedom then. And it stops you walking away thinking, the most important thing in my life about the Mass I didn't say. You can do that casually walking down the street, but yes, if you know your friend asked you about this, yeah, your friend said to you, what do Catholics believe about evolution then? Or are you a fundamentalist and you believe everything in the Bible is true? Or why don't you believe in sex before marriage? Why are you so stuck up, you Catholics? Don't you believe in love? Any of the number of questions that often come up for students, and I've got your list of them. Okay, if you have got a bit of time and it came up yesterday and you didn't know how to answer it, then yes, go online. Look on the Catechism. Look in the Bible. Look in a Catholic website. Did I give you that list last week of books to read? No, did I put it online? Maybe I didn't. Anyway, I've got the website and I'll put it online. Yes, do 10 minutes research. That's it. And just think, what's 3 things that would be good for me to know and for me to share about a given topic. Okay? Right. Fourth principle. People don't remember what you said as much as how you made them feel. People don't remember what you said as much as how you made them feel. Now, be careful with this one. It's not saying your words are unimportant, especially in a university context. You need to be thoughtful, as I said on Sunday, intelligent. And if you don't know the answer to a question when it comes up, you need to go away and do a bit of research so that you've got something to say next time. But don't over-worry about always having the knock-down perfect answer. Because actually, what people remember, and this is a fact, this is just a fact, and I think you know this from your experience as well. What do you remember from a conversation, even if it was a heated argument? It's the conversation itself. It's the whether you liked the person, isn't it? It's whether they were listening to you. It's whether they were interesting and loving. It's whether you left on good terms. Yeah, it is whether they said something interesting to you, and you go away and think, they made a good point. But look, be honest, you don't often go away from a heavy discussion and say, they made a good point, do you? It doesn't happen often. So yes, try to make good points, but it is the truth that will speak to them, and this is overlapping with some of the other points. It is your witness. Speak as lovingly and truthfully as you can. Smile. Be a friend to this person. Don't judge them. Again, assume that they have good motives and good intentions. Make sure you end positively. If it got a bit heated, say, look, I'm really sorry, this is so important to me. But how people feel about you, how people feel about the topic, and this is another reason to be positive in the ways that you're explaining things to people. Right. Principle 5. Show, don't tell. This is a classic principle of teaching, preaching, communications, radio, media, and also of talking to friends and family. Right? We're talking about some really big topic. Think of any of the topics that have come up. Very often it's more helpful to give an example to illustrate what you're talking about rather than an abstract argument. Yeah? To give a story. To speak about your own experience. I'll give you 2 examples of examples. One is, whenever there's a talk about euthanasia on the TV in a debate, yes, the pro-euthanasia side will very often give examples of people having terrible suffering in their deaths, won't they? They won't give an abstract argument, they'll give an example. And often the most effective example that you can give is to talk about someone you've known, or a story you know of someone who's been suffering and who has died and was very afraid of death and maybe wanted to take their life, but they received so much love and clinical care and pain management, and at the end of all that they were grateful for those precious last weeks that they had with their family, with their friends. Do you see? It might be a relation, it might be a story of someone that you've read about, but that example of someone being helped to die well and peacefully, and the precious gift of that extra time that might have been taken away, might help them more than an abstract argument. I'll give you another example of me giving an example, which is I remember giving a talk to a group of Anglican convert priests, so Anglicans who had become Anglican ministers who'd been received into full communion with the Catholic Church I was helping them learn about Catholic ethics, and I gave a beautiful, truthful, abstract summary about the Church's teaching on contraception. Right? And they were open to this, of course. They were Catholic. But just the abstract argument, I think, was not speaking to their hearts, and they were very open. But there was a sense that the truth I was presenting to them hadn't got very deep. Yeah. And it completely changed when I said to them, and this is true, I'll almost say in my words what I said to them. I said to them, it's very beautiful for me as a Catholic priest sometimes to be meeting couples who have been using contraception in their marriage, very kind of, as it were, innocently, thinking this is okay or we need to do this, then learning about the beauty of the Church's teaching, being challenged by it, being brave enough and generous enough to say, let us try to live this in our marriage, and then meeting them a year or 2 or 3 or 10 later, talking to them about their experience and seeing how much they have been blessed in their marriage to embrace this teaching, of how it had given them a love and a freedom within their marriage to know each other and to be open to each other and to be open to the Lord and open to new life in a way that they could never have imagined before, and honestly that they didn't believe was possible before. So I'm talking about my experience of how real people's lives have been changed by a beautiful truth, instead of just talking about the truth of the truth. Do you see? So we need to talk about the truth of the truth, but we also need examples. And there's the phrase, very easy to remember, show, don't tell. And if you can speak about why a truth is important to you, why is going to Sunday Mass important for you? I won't say forget, I take that back. I was going to say, forget the 10 key doctrines about the Catholic Eucharist. No, you need to know them. Or the 20 or the 30. Don't forget them. But if you're speaking to someone, speak from the heart. Why is it important to you? Why does it matter to you? And you speaking from the heart, or about someone who has been really helped and blessed in a certain way, that will illuminate, connects with the previous one. Show, don't tell. Principle 6. Remember to say yes. Remember to say yes. Because sometimes it can seem to people as if the Church is against a lot of stuff, can't it? Why are you against abortion? Why are you, some people think, won't get into this is another topic, do you seem to be against evolution? Why are you against scientific progress and against embryonic research? Yeah? And in answering that, we're tempted to defend a truth, but to say, yes, we are against this bad thing for these reasons. Now, sometimes that is part of a discussion. Yeah? It is wrong to destroy embryos. But what are we for in this situation? Because behind every no is a yes. Behind every prohibition, and the Bible and the Church does have some prohibitions, behind every single one is a positive yes. And we have to get as quickly as possible to the yes, because that's what we really care about. And actually, this person talking to us won't understand the no until they understand the yes. All the 10 Commandments, yeah? Thou shalt not kill. It's a no, it's a prohibition. Why do we say you shouldn't kill innocent human life? Because we care about the dignity of human life, the gift of human life. Do not steal. Thou shalt not steal. Right? A prohibition. But it's because we care about the other person and their rights and who they are and their life. And they have rights just as I have rights. Why do we care about embryonic research? Yeah? Why do I not? Because we believe that this tiny human life, the embryo, is the very beginnings of human life. This isn't a potential person. This isn't just a potential human being that will become a human being in 8 weeks' time. We believe, this lovely phrase is not mine, this is not a potential person, this is a person with potential. Yeah? Now, the person listening to us might not believe that, but they can see, well, you care about this because you believe this embryo is a human being in its very early stages. So try and get to the positive intention, to the value, the yes that the church cares about. Yeah? Obvious one here. Why are you so against sex, against love? Why don't you believe in sex before marriage as Catholics? Again, it sounds like a big no, doesn't it? But you need to find some way of getting very quickly to, we believe in the beauty of sex and marriage and love, but we want them to be lived and understood in their fullness. There's a beauty, there's a truth here. It's not just about a no. Principle number 7. Compassion counts. Compassion counts. In lots of the difficult topics that come up, there is something very personal at the root of why you care about it and why the other person cares about it. And many of the issues that are very neuralgic, hot topics, difficult topics, like we keep going back to them. What's some of the issues in our culture today? Euthanasia, death and dying, the meaning of marriage and sexuality. Why are these such big, common topics and so passionate ones, such passionate ones? It's partly because they are important and touch everyone's life, but it's partly because people are very often hurt and hurting in these areas, isn't it? Why is sexuality such a big topic for young people? Because so many young people are being hurt through sexuality and different and difficult sexual encounters. Why is death and dying such a big topic? Because so many families are dealing with the hurt and the difficult ethical decisions and the heartache of family members being sick and suffering and dying. So before any arguments, remember to be compassionate. Remember, even if you're arguing at one level and discussing and debating, to have a compassionate heart that knows that maybe this person is speaking out of some hurt. I don't mean that you're psychologizing all the time and you say, the only reason you don't believe in God is because you had a wounded childhood or something. I mean, that's not a very good argument. Yeah? But you're human all the time, so that you have a compassionate heart, but your antennae are up, and if someone is talking about something passionately, you're able to say, look, I recognise that this is a big topic, and in the specifics of a given argument, keep saying, if you're talking about euthanasia and so-called dying with dignity, keep acknowledging that this is really difficult and that people are really suffering, but then say, and I want to try and the church wants to try and help people in their suffering, but they see there is another way of helping people in their suffering that's possible, and your proposal to help them is not the only way, and it might end up doing more harm than good. So you're being compassionate, you're listening, you're not being hard-hearted. Yeah? And that actually you're listening. You're listening emotionally, with emotional intelligence, and sometimes when that hurt does come to the surface, you're able just to lay the arguments aside and say, hey, look, I'm sorry if this is difficult, do you want to talk? Now, don't do that in your TV interview or whatever necessarily, but do that with a friend. Yeah. Right, the 8th principle, this is very simple, avoid robotics. Right, you might have gone away and memorised the answer from the catechism, a scriptural quotation. Did you not know that God loved the world so much that he sent his only son? Full stop, etc. Yeah? And the person thinking, well, that's beautiful, but you haven't answered my question. It's a bit like these. There's all these quotes on the buses now, the biblical quotes. Yeah, I quite like them actually, and they're not too negative or aggressive, but just they're sitting there in isolation. So with quotes, with arguments, with statistics. Did you know that 65% of the Nobel Prize winners have believed in God historically? It's a nice statistic to throw in. That was made up, by the way. It might be 99% didn't. It's facts, quotes, statistics. They are helpful. Bring them in sometimes, but use them as part of your conversation, your heart, your discussion, and not as killer blows. Don't be a robot. Be human. Right? Principle number 9. It's about witnessing, not winning. It's about witnessing, not winning. What truly changes people's hearts and minds? It's not usually a single intellectual argument, is it? Again, it's what I was saying on Sunday about my own experience. Change, conversion, intellectual enlightenment, it happens usually in a holistic way by thoughts, arguments, beauty, experience, truth. And the way that your life touches people, as I said at the beginning, is holistic. And the greatest gift that you can give to someone, again as I said on Sunday, is that you are an ordinary, loving, kind, thoughtful, intelligent person who is trying to share what you care about. You're trying to have an intelligent conversation with them, but it's the light and the warmth and the thoughtfulness that comes from the whole witness of your life and conversation, and not just from the argument you give. So you don't have to win the argument. You have to witness to what's important to you. I'm not saying it's just subjective, as if objective truth doesn't matter. No. You need to be thoughtful and intelligent. You need to have some arguments. You need to have some counter-arguments to the false arguments and prejudices that sometimes people are giving you. But it's the witness of yourself giving the argument that will touch people. And you don't have to beat them. Yeah? Their own intelligence, their conscience, and the grace of God will lead them to grow in understanding and love over time when the time is right. And very often we are just planting seeds that will grow in people's hearts and minds later. Maybe many years later. So don't worry about winning an argument. Just do the best you can to witness lovingly and intelligently to what you believe and what the church believes. And last of all, it's not about you. It's not about you. Again, this was a point developed for media, which is when people, ordinary people, were terrified of going on TV or radio, as you would be, as I am. Yeah? All the fear, but it happens to you in ordinary life as well. Yeah? I'm sitting here in a lecture room, and the lecturer says something really provocative and unkind or unfair, and I feel I should say something. A friend teases me. I'm coming to Mass, and I don't know whether to admit to others that I'm coming to Mass. I'm asked to do something, big, like I'm asked to give a talk at a Catholic event, or I'm asked to be a Catholic representative, or to join the Catholic committee or something. All the different times when we're asked to step up slightly, and it might be as simple as talking to a friend, and we're a bit nervous, we're afraid, what will they think of me? What will they say to me? Will they like me? Will I do well? Do you see all this stuff? It's about ego. What will they think of me? Will they like me? Will I do well? It's not about you. It's about loving them and loving the truth. And if your desire is not for you to do well, for you to be liked, for you to be thought well of, but if your desire is to love them, is to help them, is to do your best, and you might have gone on radio and said something stupid, yeah? You might have gone to an interfaith event to be the Catholic representative and feel that you did really badly and what an idiot I felt. And actually you go home and you say, I wish I had said three other things instead of the 3 things I said. Okay? I'm not saying what you say doesn't matter, but don't get over-obsessed about yourself. If you're trying to love, if you're trying to speak the truth and do your best, God will help you. Yeah? So be at peace. I guess another way of this last point is not about you. It's about the meaning of Christian humility, isn't it? We do our best. We don't pretend we're not vulnerable. Yeah, I am a bit afraid. Yeah, I am a bit self-conscious. I do want people to like me. That's okay. It's true when you're 50, as it is when you're 20. But just to admit all that and say, okay, well, let me do my best nevertheless. And in the light of that, but it's true of all of them, we need to pray. This isn't an 11th point, it's underlying them all, and I said it in the introduction. Yes? If you know you're going to have an encounter, pray for the person, pray for yourself, and hand it all over. If you're in the middle of an unexpected encounter, someone's caught you, it's the pub. Yeah? There's 9 non-Catholics and you're in the corner, and they're all drunk. Yeah? Then remember to send up an arrow prayer. And afterwards, whatever happens, if it's gone well or badly, hand it over to God and ask Him to look after it and to help the little seeds that you planted grow to fruition. Okay.